Yes.
I was hoping we're not gonna sit and read through the whole
print it.
six
I was
pages.
Pretty yesterday, and then I looked at it and it's like,
Yeah, I know, I
Yeah.
thought about it too, and then I sat,
If you start reading, like I said, it's mostly, it
Yes.
talks about, the land itself, broken down, like, probably the same as when you first took over the property. And the background of it, there's a lot in there, just backstory.
There's a lot in there, but I think there is some stuff,
Yeah,
having read through it, that we
Yeah.
should actively discuss.
Perfect.
But if I print it, it's probably going to take like 5 minutes, so
We
delay
can-
the
we-
meeting.
Yeah, we can wait to print it. We can wait to print it.
yeah, if you've got it up on the screen, that's.
Yeah. All right, so you ready, Laura?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I would like to open the Albany Conservation Commission monthly meeting of August 6th, 2024 at 6:33 p.m. Everyone looks present and at least accounted for. Jake's probably not coming. There are no appointments today. So I'd like to just move on to approve the meeting minutes for June 4th of 2024, because we did not have a meeting last month. Are there any questions or comments about those? You have a motion to bring them to the floor?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Second, okay. Yeah, I know, it's been a couple of months. I reread them myself and, to refresh my memory, and they looked good. All right, all those in favor of approving those minutes of June 4th, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All no opposed, so motion carries to approve those minutes. Now we move right on to, Tim Nolan sent the timber management plan and conservation management plan. And Sean was gracious enough to forward that to us. It's, 74 pages. And as, Mike just, mentioned, there's a lot of background story and, great information listed there on how it all came about and what the land is like. So are there any points you'd like to bring forth?
There's a
Anyone?
few things I saw to
Okay.
talk about. I don't know if anyone else has anything, but the introduction and goals and objectives are pretty straightforward. Let's see. Yeah. This is the lots, meets and bounds, general overview map. Conservation easement. So this is the Upper Sauk Valley Land Trust conservation easement and the conservation purposes. And I just wanted to go to C, just kind of remind ourselves of these things, because they're active things. So the protection and conservation of open spaces, natural scenery for the enjoyment and general public viewing, including views of the forested shoreline of the Swift River. So that doesn't really take much management because it's the forested part. Number 2, views of the natural undeveloped landscape along the Kank. That doesn't take much because it's the natural undeveloped part. And then 3, what we have been doing in bits and pieces here is views of the fields and mountains beyond the White Mountains as it being a paved road from Route 16. So just to keep that as like, it actually is in the easement that we're supposed to keep maintaining that, and I know we already knew that, and have been doing it, but I just wanted to bring it up again that that's actually in there, and there's a expectation to keep that.
Whether done by the Conservation Commission or hired out by the Conservation Commission.
Just to be done, yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't say how, who, or how.
It's not.
Just an
It's
objective.
not our responsibility to
Yeah.
start doing a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. Well, who is it? Order of priority. Yeah. And then views of the natural undeveloped landscape along Bald Hill Road, which is no longer well, it's still natural and undeveloped, but it was the salvage harvest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's natural and undeveloped.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are still there. So just to go over that,
Mhm. Ah, we did make it.
Jake,
Good.
gosh, what else?
Going over the
Commercial forestry.
forest management plan that Tim Nolan sent. Sean's gonna print it later for our records, but we're just picking up some points
Oh yeah.
that we want to review.
So 2B or under 4C 2B, the installation of minor forest management structures. So this is basically saying that, well, I'll just read it, but you can do minor temporary portable structures for support of forest management activities on the property, including privies, barriers, gates, fences, culverts, bridges. That is really, I think, just saying that we can do these things in order to do the management that's needed on the minor level.
Mhm.
So like what we're doing, trail maintenance and stuff like that. So if we needed to bring in a trailer of equipment, we could on a temporary basis.
Mhm.
Just thought that was worth noting or knowing, refreshing in our memories. For non-commercial forestry, small scale cutting, and for maintaining fields or for the purpose of maintaining view. So that is allowed and permitted. Again, just to refresh memories. And then anything commercial has to be done by a licensed forester, and there's a bunch of steps that you have to go through, which is good. Okay, boundary lines. So this is one of the requirements or expectations of the easement is that the boundaries will be maintained, which we've done some, but especially with Kevin's departure, we'll just have to be doing that more without you, unfortunately.
I'm available for consultation. And maybe help, we'll see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not that
yes.
far away.
Yeah.
Paint.
Yes, and paint, yeah. Give you the lowdown on the good paint.
Yeah, the good stuff.
Yes, yeah.
We want the expensive stuff, no cheap stuff.
Surprising, they make specific tree marking, boundary marking paint, but most of it is really not that good. Like, they don't have the good stuff in it anymore. That yellow is Rust-Oleum house paint, and it lasts a long time, but it's just, yeah.
Good to know.
But yeah, I can get you specifics or donate to the cause too. It's like $30 a gallon or something. So,
It's really $30 a gallon?
yeah, it's really like not that bad.
Really?
Yeah,
Cheap.
yeah.
Should stop getting my house with
Did you guys use a gallon each?
Just bright yellow.
it. Yeah.
Well, you already did ragged and bright red, right?
Yeah, sure.
Did you guys use a gallon each when you?
I think we used a gallon. A gallon will last about a mile, basically.
Oh, so Savine, you used a gallon last time?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
I think so.
That goes a long ways.
Yeah, yeah.
Lousy mileage.
Slow paper, so.
It's worse than my truck.
And I had talked about putting together a boundary maintenance plan, which I never quite got around to, but it's something I can, even if it's just to jot down some notes, that, you know, once a year, you know, I mean, like I said, that day of court night, we spent 3-4 hours out there, one person rushing, one person painting, and it, you know, doesn't take that much to, you know, do
Yeah.
that 4 years and everything's up to date, and then you can wait 10 years before you have to do it again, so. Everything now is about 10-ish, 12 years old, so it's definitely due. And
Okay.
waiting any longer, it's gonna get harder to follow. But it's, yeah, I can try to help with what I can.
Fall project.
That'd be awesome, and especially I think you probably have, or between you and Court, the most on-the-ground knowledge of
The edges of it.
and where things vary a little bit between what was the old boundary line and the new boundary line, and you don't want to paint the old stuff.
Right, yeah.
Oh.
The good thing is we primarily, when we surveyed it, the old boundaries were red. And we purposely painted everything yellow so that it's
Ah.
the new stuff, the good stuff is yellow.
Yeah.
So if you do find red, it's usually out of date and not straight. So just
It's-
keep going.
I mean, it's pretty, even though it's 12 years, it's still in.
You can still follow
Still
it.
follow
It's
it.
still it's just gonna get more and more faded. And I mean, I've seen blazes that are 40 years old that you can still follow. It's just trees die and stuff fades, and it's gonna get harder and harder. But like you said, if you can stay in 10 to 15 years, that's
Well, the longest-
10 to 15 years.
We did one of the 2 longest boundaries,
Yeah.
so
yeah.
what remains is
Yeah.
actually not too bad.
Yeah.
Did you do the east side up the hill and
We,
down?
we did the south side of the keg.
That's
The whole
I'm
south
sorry,
side.
South
yeah.
side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's behind
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah,
We
we
did
did the whole south side of
That's
the
gonna say,
tank.
because that's pretty obvious, we were laying out that new loop up there, it's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah,
obvious.
the ski jump lot hasn't been done. That's
Right, but I
the part,
did
But
find
you said you
some
would see
markers.
quite a bit of it, yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
So the section around the Fish and Game and Baltimore Drive should be pretty straightforward.
yeah, and we had walked that, I think, like 2 years ago, and that was maybe the next area to target, just because there's houses and stuff there.
Yeah.
We hadn't found any encroachments, but it's a good idea when you've got,
Right.
houses in the backyard and stuff,
Right.
so,
Court, can you get this in the minutes, the yellow paint and the next area
Yep.
to target?
sure.
Yep.
And, yeah.
Yep.
And then were there any areas that were getting grown in thick that are problematic, that would need earlier attention rather than later?
Bald Hill, I think, is the stuff where we just had the timber harvest. Tim had been around it and was able to follow it, so I think that's it needs to be done, but you can follow it, so it's probably not high priority. As Court said, around the back of Baltimore Drive and stuff. We did the section against the old campground when we did all that stuff on the other side of the keg, so that side's set. I'd say the next area to worry about would be like by the railroad tracks, where there's those houses on the top of the bank, and there's the, used to be the fire precinct owned that little brick building.
Oh, yeah.
So that's probably the next area to target. It grows in thick with brush because it's, swamp down at the bottom, but there's also a lot of settlement there. So that would probably be the next place after Baltimore Drive.
Right along the railroad tracks.
Yeah, there's the railroad tracks, and then there's those couple houses,
Yeah.
and then it's like
That's
the
right by the
bank,
middle
and it's,
school.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little complicated back there, and it's
And it
because
gets
it's
thick.
wet,
It's
you know,
wet, right.
and we did set monuments all around that and stuff. But it would be a place where like putting up signposts at the corners might not be a bad idea. And there's probably not a lot to blaze in places, but it's going to be an area that needs some attention.
I wonder if this should be our fall work day.
But that's what I'm thinking, I should pull a fall work day and pick one of the lines that we think needs to be done soon.
It's a good idea to wait till the leaves come down.
It definitely helps.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good October, November.
Especially with
Olympia, is that Olympia Drive or what?
Yeah, it's Olympic Lane is what they call it.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe early November.
Well, there's a lot more undergrowth now because of the oak kill off.
Yeah.
So it's really,
Yeah.
the woods are different now than they would have been. Definitely a lot more.
That section around the middle school is like an alder swamp.
Yeah. Yeah, well, all that stuff we were cutting for the view, it's a lot of that same stuff there.
Yeah, let the poison ivy die off.
Exactly.
Good call,
Yeah.
okay,
Good.
good discussion.
So the next part of the forest management plan was land history, and just talks about going back quite a ways, but then Kennett Company owning good bits of it and harvesting and when it did its harvest. And this was interesting here on page 10 at the bottom, that in March of 2012, and this is before my time, but Court, you were here, so there was this harvest, and the town of Albany netted that much.
Yeah, they used it to offset the shortage and we needed the money
To make
to
the
offset-
deal.
To make the deal.
Okay, so did all that money go to the deal, basically? That's good.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was wondering.
Right.
What happened?
Then the money that was in the Forest Conservation Fund was essentially, was it interest? I can't remember. They basically, the Trust for Public Land
Yeah.
basically gave it to us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. That was my question. Really, is kind of how did that go? Where did it go?
Yeah.
So that. Thank you for answering that. And then it goes again. There was another harvest where the town netted this much, and that probably all went to the
That was
same.
on the same thing, right?
Yeah.
On the other side of the road.
Yeah. And then it goes into what we did just do for the salvage harvest, and there's our net for that much. So that's all good. Topography, pretty. We know what it is. Soils, I don't know what those are.
You know, it's rocky on both though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was mentioned many times.
Yes.
And then access. Was there something here that?
I don't know if it's in here, but one access thing that we have talked about is obviously through the ranger station. And one of the things we had left that was probably doing a memorandum of understanding
Yes.
with the Forest Service.
That is what I was getting at.
Okay.
Because it talks
Yeah.
about.
Sorry to take the wind.
No, I
Yeah.
wasn't getting there yet, so you got me there. That's exactly it, because
Yeah.
it talks about all the access points, which are still existing and fairly well established.
Yeah.
And the one being that to get to that portion of the land, it's through the Forest Service, and we don't technically own it. Or we don't own
Right,
it.
yeah.
Right, yeah, and I haven't had any conversation recently, but the last time I had talked to the district ranger, you know, they were open to doing an MOU about, you know, road maintenance and stuff like that. So I think that's still an open possibility there.
Yeah.
So, but that's something that I can help with, and it's probably easier to deal with now that I'm not on both sides of it necessarily, but, so yeah, keep a line of
Is that
communication.
Jim?
Jim Ennis, yeah.
Okay.
That would be great.
Yeah.
All right, so then timber resources and forest categorization. It's in-depth report, and there wasn't anything that I had. I don't know. Just go with Tim's expertise here.
Right.
What was interesting was the recommendations, and that there's a multi-year kind of harvest. Well, there's like harvest that happened at some point, and then there's small patchy harvest to help with the regeneration, where you basically knock out some of the undergrowth to allow for the preferred growth to accelerate or grow to its best. And he goes through at the end with a summary of kind of the timeline and targeted bullet points of what we should do. But it was great because I didn't really know any of this stuff. So having this forest management plan was very enlightening in that regard. I don't know that we've paid too much attention to thinking what the next steps are on forest management, but
I think we were probably in that, at least I was, of the mindset of, you know, it wasn't cut super hard when we acquired the property, but, you know,
Yeah.
especially the lower stuff down along the river was cut, and it's like, well, we're not doing anything in there for 10 or 15 or 20 years because it's gotta mature,
Yeah.
you know, so we weren't of that mindset, but now things have come back and matured, so now you gotta get more of a management cycle, so.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah.
I know Don Johnson mentioned doing timber stand improvement in that lot 4 or whatever, which is right around the wide trail, and perhaps even over and behind the Forest Service because of more the one by the wide trail because of the pine regeneration.
Right, because
You
those are
want to
big
make sure
pines in there, and
you want to make sure that you haven't got weed trees in there.
yeah, get in and clear out all the
Right.
beach understory and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, I remember you had talked about that,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much harvesting we want to get into if it's a really small parcel.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not pushing for it.
No,
I
I
guess
know,
it was
right.
more just enlightening to
Right.
read the management
Yeah, no,
plan and
it
how
was
that
an
works.
interesting read because of how it was breaking up the different stands
Yeah.
and the different ages and the quality of the stuff that was there.
Yeah. Yeah. Timber resources, all right. And this is much of that same, so just gonna scroll through. Yeah, here's our most recent salvage cut.
I saw that he threw a couple pictures of seedlings
Yeah, this is great.
really?
Yeah.
That's what I wanted
Nice.
to point
Yeah.
out.
trudging around out there.
Black
not
birch.
to kill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
really quite
Yeah.
impressive.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know where he took the pictures, but.
Well, he has of the black birch that
Right.
he seeded right
That's
there.
what I was amazed at.
Yeah, wow.
So already some black birch seedlings from the test. So that was great. I didn't expect that or had no anticipation of it. So great to see.
Yeah, you wonder about 4 pounds of seed would do that much, if it was grass seed, it wouldn't even,
Yeah.
you'd probably do 1,000 feet,
Yeah.
square feet. Must be really small seed.
Yeah, how much would the deer eat of the 4,000 seedlings that pop up?
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, man.
I think the habitat stuff was pretty straightforward. The only thing was a couple of endangered or protected species, and there was some probably inaccurate mapping, just kind of bulk mapping of like this area all has laurel when really it's only a tiny little sliver of it, and a few other species where that was done as well, where it kind of got listed as like, oh, this whole area has something, but really it needs an analysis on the ground. Well, it doesn't need it. If we're not doing anything, it doesn't need it. But if we're going to do anything, you'd want to go in ahead of time and actually see where the things are and get a more detailed map. So that was good to note as well. Water resources, fairly straightforward, I think. This I didn't know about either, this buried pipe. The
Yeah.
old buried pipe. Is that of any significance? Is that anything we need to think about? Or it's just an old pipe sitting there and no
No.
big deal?
The fire district still has an easement to use that if they ever wanted to pull water out of the river, but
Yeah.
realistically, they don't use surface water as drinking water anymore. That's why they have the wells. So if it was something we were ever concerned about and wanted to, get them to release that easement, it would take some legal paperwork. And then the question is, do you just it's basically abandoned in place now. But
The document suggested it was the Kennett Corporation.
They
that
kind of
had
held the easement
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, that does sound vaguely familiar. It's probably
Yeah.
on one of those plans up
The,
there, but it's kind of like a joint thing.
Mhm.
it. Yeah, originally there was, I think there was 2 lines that ran under the river.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there was big pieces of split stone in the middle of the river. I'm fascinated to find out why those are there.
Yeah.
They're not close enough that you could step from one to the other,
Yeah.
and I had no idea.
One of those pipes used to be exposed. I don't know if they buried it in when they did the logging, but it used to form a big.
Yeah, there used to be a, right,
Used to
there was a
like
bleeder,
a
there was
big
a,
ice castle
Yeah.
that formed every
Yeah.
winter.
there was a
Oh,
bleeder
wow.
valve there.
Yeah, I think they must have buried it, but that must be one of the pipes
Yeah.
that you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yes, it is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because one of those pipes actually goes across the river and
Right.
goes to an old
Goes
reservoir
up
up
on
on
the hill.
South Moat
Yeah,
somewhere.
no,
Yeah.
we used to be on that water line.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, really?
Until they shut it off, right.
Gotcha.
They were using it as head pressure. They
Right.
weren't using it as supply, they were using it as pressure apparently.
Gotcha.
But then I guess they put the standpipe on Bald Hill Road
Yeah.
to replace it.
So my feeling is it's probably defunct. It's not anything that they use, but they still technically have that right. They would have to release it. And
Right.
thinking ahead, the fire district dissolving, that would transfer to the town, so then it'd be a matter of working with the town of Conway, and I'm sure they would be more than happy to get rid of it, just to take some legal, a lawyer to drop a deed or something to release that, so.
Goes across my property as well.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah,
That's right, I forgot you're like right there practically.
yeah, it goes all the way up to, I think in the end it goes up into the drainage on South Moat.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Wow. The other thing I noted was the state statute limiting any activity within 400 feet of its wells, and prohibiting pesticide use within 4,000 foot radius, and our farmers are not using pesticides. But just another thing to keep a mental note on.
Probably something we should probably remind them.
Yeah.
Just
Good point, yeah.
Right, just an FYI.
I've honestly never thought about that, the fact that the wells are right there and that,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, we said that we did get an inquiry from the water precinct about a year ago asking about that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
They wanted to know,
So they're
right, they
watching.
wanted to know what was
Yeah.
being used out there. Roundup.
Yeah, so we had talked about
Yeah.
having kind of maybe an annual meeting with the farmers in,
Mhm.
you know, winter, basically.
Yep.
And so, again, maybe in the minutes, just have this as something that goes to the farmer, you know, the annual, just reminder, just reminding you, you know.
Mhm.
Okay.
Let's see. Aesthetics. Okay, recreation. All right, this is interesting. The recreational trail system has expanded significantly during the 12 years of town ownership. This is great. Loop trail, blah, blah, blah. For future harvesting, this trail system will need to be protected, most likely provided a small buffer along it. However, it needs to be stated that the density of trails in the far western section of the Davis Farm Lot, particularly the layout of the Twister Trail, with its many switchback twist turns and almost renders the area impracticable to harvest.
It's those mountain bikers.
Yeah. South of the highway, the uphill both ways trails uses the main skid trail in several locations. The challenging terrain in this area necessitated that the skid trail be located where it is, and future harvesting will need to use this location. So just things to keep in mind.
It is what goes on. It's the same over in the
That's
golf
how it
course.
is. Yeah.
The trail becomes a skidder path, and
Yeah.
then the trail becomes a trail again after.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a shared thing, you
Yeah.
know.
That's
For
nice.
sure. Because there are literally some places where you can only like
It's the only way.
get up the hill one practical way, so
Yeah.
it's part of the game.
Yeah. So it's just news to me. So as long as it's everyone else is aware of it and it's not an issue in any way. And then kind of looking forward, should recreational trails be constructed on the Bald Hill Road section? The limiting logging access should be considered, and trails should not be placed in such a location that they greatly hinder future management.
Right. Well, and the loop we laid out now, the upper loop,
Yeah.
it touches on one lot, actually that same skidder road, just early down the bottom.
Yeah.
Doesn't follow it like we did, you know, and that could easily be moved off of the skidder road,
Yeah.
just to the left, up the hill, if we really wanted to, and never have to worry about it again.
Yeah.
But the rest of it up above, maybe cross the skidder road once.
Yeah.
Because they're basically shooting straight up the hill of that. It's kind of what we kind of try to avoid is the roads. It's kind of a boring ride anyway. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And my understanding is if there's logging operations, the trails are just closed during logging operations,
Exactly,
right?
yeah,
And then
for
these
sure.
are really simple trails; they're not engineered trails.
Right.
Yeah,
So
so you can go back and rebuild.
just go back and do a little hand.
yeah. We're doing it in Conway on the east side right now. And, you know, they logged that whole area. And they had the cross trails, so
Yeah.
just put the trail back after.
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
Yeah.
that was my presumption.
Yeah.
Awesome. Just wanted to check
And
in on it.
and from what I've seen, what Tim's done in different places, he's done a good job of when,
Just-
obviously there's limitations of what he can do when he lays stuff out, but when he comes to a trail, if he can cross it once at a right angle, he's done a really good job of that. So like, if you
Sure.
have to rebuild a trail, you're building 50 feet of it and not
Exactly.
300 feet in 6 different sections,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, they're really good about it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Here's the cut granite. Oh yeah, so this little bit about the rare and endangered plants and animals, and that goes into this little mapping discrepancies. So it's just basically overmapped and probably actually under less growth than what the map says. Invasive species, basically nothing particular observed. I don't know if anyone else has any, if that should be, but if not, we'll just leave it as is.
Yeah, the only thing I was gonna say is like the glossy buckthorn and the Japanese
Yeah.
knotweed tend to follow water courses, so you would find them along the river or any streams feeding the swift, but we don't really have a lot of streams that go into it, so
Right.
it hasn't, I don't adds to an issue.
Could share something bittersweet from my backyard.
Yeah.
Just
Right,
across the
yeah,
street
true.
from town forest. That seems to be doing well.
Oh, yeah, sure does.
Poison ivy.
None of that around my house.
Yeah.
So what else? Best management practices, fire hazard, insects, disease. All right, and then this is down here on page 56. So management summary. So this is just really great with the scheduled priorities. And this is really nice that Tim did this. But delay mowing in the field till after August 1st to let all the birds and critters do their breeding. I don't know if that's something that we've ever kind of shared with the farmers or if that's part of their concept, but again, maybe one of the things for that winter meeting with the farmers to just say, keep in mind, you know,
Yeah.
as much as possible.
Yeah.
Have they typically done it kind of after their season is
Yeah.
over, where they've done
Yeah.
their harvest?
No
and it's
point,
kind of a,
there's really no point in mowing earlier because you don't want to get a second crop.
right, yeah.
Yeah. Yep, boundaries, so we talked about that, doing boundaries. And then it goes into kind of a little schedule here for forest stand improvement and recommended harvesting. So I'm not gonna read through it, but just a great reference and a bit of a time schedule laid out for us as to what to pay attention to. So I thought that was great.
Nice roadmap.
And the rest is appendices. So that was it as far as my little things of note.
Thank you. I appreciate you putting that up on the screen so that we could all kind of go through it.
So if there's anything else, I can get to a page or
Yeah.
anything.
I don't have anything else.
Yeah, I think just something to think about is the cutting recommendations, you know, if
Mhm.
you know, the cost and the time and the work that went into this, and not saying you have to follow it verbatim, but, you know, it is a recommendation based on science and experience, you know, and obviously if you make a decision that, no, we don't wanna do any cutting, it's a recreational forest, and, you know, just let everything mature, and that's totally fine too, but, you know, got a forester that does give a recommendation to,
Yeah.
you know, if you got a stand of spruce that you can make better by clearing understory and, you know, doing a little bit of cutting and, you know, yeah, muck stuff up for a year or two, but ultimately it's, you know, better for the health of the forest and something to consider anyways.
So it'd be worth having Tim evaluate some of this to find out whether or not, if you harvested, whether it cost you money to harvest it versus just gaining.
Certainly, and that's, yeah, it's a consideration if you got small, you know, small pockets.
Two small
that-
pockets,
Yeah.
too, not economically viable for a contractor to work it.
He had estimates for these in here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So to do this little bit of maintenance would actually, well, his estimates were, you know, minor profits.
Right,
But
yeah, exactly.
You would
right.
want to check it again before doing.
That's what I mean, you know, if you're only gonna make a couple of grand out of it or something like that, it's like, Jesus, really worth it. Especially the potential flack you might take by doing it.
Yeah.
Has anybody got any feedback on the Bald Hill parcel? I personally haven't heard anything.
No,
Nothing good.
A little bit, maybe, but, you know, what do you, it's easily, it's pretty defensible.
Right,
Yes.
It's
yeah,
like
Right.
dead anyway, so,
yeah,
or destined to be, you know,
yeah.
not as much, the Whitaker's been a lot more
A little
controversial.
higher
Yeah,
profile.
right, yeah.
Yeah. But it's the same case, and
Right.
the same thing over on,
Yeah.
you know, behind Walmart and stuff, the stuff they did there, I mean, it's
Mhm.
like, okay, you can leave it, and it's gonna fall on people, you know, and we have a little less of an issue on Bald Hill, it's not like people are using that property actively, but
Yeah.
it's, you know, better to get the value out of it.
Trying to improve the
Absolutely.
view.
I imagine that people are a little more educated now, a couple of years into it, of what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, they see it in their own backyards
Yeah.
as well.
Right,
Okay.
okay. Thanks again, Sean, for putting that on the screen, so we're going through it, appreciate
Yeah.
it. Right, one thing on the new business that I forgot to put would be Kevin's formal
Okay.
resignation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
formally resigning.
yeah. moving out of town and he's formally resigning.
Yeah, so
Okay.
bummer, but I appreciate everybody's help, and it was a good time, and I think we got some stuff done. And
Well, I will speak for the Conservation Commission. We appreciate what you have done. You've been, really, you took over as chair for a few years, and the boundary line adjustment, your connection with the Forest Service, the time that you've put in, is very much appreciated. It's, the one thing about I admire and appreciate on this board is everybody does a part, and it's phenomenal, and you were a key part in that.
ran a fast meeting.
Well, that's good. There's no messing around. Just get to the point.
I second Kathy's comments and just want to
Yeah,
say thank you
thank
for all
you.
the expertise
Yeah.
and the help and the just great support all around. Fantastic, Kevin.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So along those lines, we need to start thinking, who else we can bring on board. Because we'll need another person.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what alternates are all about.
Yeah, they get promoted.
That's how I got into this mess.
Yes, yeah.
They're in the batter's
Shoes to
box.
fill, huh?
Yes, yeah.
I don't know.
She didn't tell you?
I've said it before. It's pretty low commitment.
Mhm.
It's a feel good board to be on. You feel like the stuff you're working on is benefiting the town and the
Yeah.
public, and obviously a lot of people in Conway use it too. So it's almost a valley wide thing. And with our trails being more mellow trails, has been the whole thing about it's good for all ages and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it's been great to work on that side of things, and then to drive by it every day, on my way to my house, and have that completely uninterrupted block from the standpipe
Yes.
all the way up through Tin Mountain to my house, literally. It's like
Yeah.
it's pretty cool. There aren't really many, and it's gonna stay that way too. And
Yes.
There's not many places like that in the valley that, it might be treated now, but 10 years from now it might not be. So it's pretty lucky to have that.
Right, so I'll make a motion that we promote Jake from alternate to a full-fledged member.
Is he okay with that?
That sounds like nepotism, actually. I think.
I was waiting for one of you guys to do it, and they were like, oh, let the chairman do it.
Yeah, sure.
And you accept.
Okay.
I would second the motion.
It's okay.
Okay.
Do we vote?
Oh, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay,
So
yeah,
shall
I'm
we
just
vote?
I'm just
Catching up, yep.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor of promoting Jake from an alternate to a full-fledged member signify by saying aye. Aye.
I can't go down.
No. You've been kicked to the curb.
I've got you, listening to you as voting tonight.
I voted up everything up to that.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right.
Sorry, if
No,
I could
go
go
ahead.
back to the management plan.
Sure.
So the next step for that is for us to, I'll make a motion to accept
Accept
it
it.
as presented.
Okay,
And we accept it, if we accept it, and then authorize payment from the conservation fund to Tim Nolan
Yeah, I
for,
could pay for it.
yes.
I didn't see the bill. Yeah.
So
All right,
I'll make
I'll
a
make a
motion
motion.
to accept the updated forest stewardship plan as presented by Tim Nolan.
And I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay, all right. All those in favor of accepting the timber management, the updated forest stewardship plan as presented for the Albany Town Forest, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. No opposed? So it will pass that.
And then I'd make the next motion
Motion to-
to authorize payment from the conservation
Conservation
fund to
fund.
Tim Nolan.
Mhm.
Okay, we're doing these as two positions,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Did you-
Okay,
Is there a bill attached? Is there an invoice attached?
I don't know if it's in here in my email or in my text.
Okay, all right.
Let's see. There is. He did say
Is
the
that,
amount.
okay.
It's exactly 37.
Right, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Check tax.
All right. Yeah, we'll probably need something hard copy to give to
Yeah.
the selectmen's side of the things.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably sent something.
I missed it.
Is there a second for that motion?
I'll say that.
Jake, a second.
Oh, okay, okay.
Didn't recognize his voice, you've never really heard it before.
Yeah, right. Okay. Okay.
All right,
I don't have an amount.
Okay.
I thought he did say it, but
He'd give us a quote, obviously, before we
Mhm.
authorized him to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we probably have to have an actual invoice.
It's 5,000, wasn't it?
somewhere in there. I think it might have been actually less, but
Okay.
um,
Okay.
but somewhere around there. It sounds correct.
Yeah.
So what I have in text is that if there's no changes, then he will send an invoice. And
okay,
so to town administrator. So I think we can authorize payment.
payment, yes.
So I would just say, make a motion to authorize payment to Tim Nolan for the forest management plan.
Okay.
Authorize payment from the conservation fund.
Okay. All those in favor?
Yeah.
We did that,
Sure.
right? Okay. Just to review, move on to old business. Just to do a quick review, the O'Connor bench, I haven't heard from Nick, but it's on my radar to contact him to see if he wants to continue to refinish that. I looked at it the other day and it's a key lock on there. So
Gate?
yeah, on the chain
The
for
chain
the bench.
Reach.
This is for the,
Oh, for the
this
bench.
is
Yeah,
for you
the
guys.
All right.
Yeah, I got those locks for the gate, but, yeah, for the actual bench, it was a key. So it'll have to be,
They just have to cut
Cut
it
it.
and get a
get
new one or
a
something.
new one or something,
we
yeah.
didn't lock the bench up.
Mm-mm.
People who supply the bench did.
Right, yeah, so it's a little bit of a hoopah.
Well,
Yeah.
we were thinking it's just okay to just have him do it, and we don't really have a contact with the people that put it there.
Right,
I think that was the first question, was who owns it? We
Yeah.
give him permission to have it there, but do we
Mhm.
need to run it by anybody, or is it the assumption that it's on the town forest now that
Yeah.
we kind of can maintain it and
Right.
do stuff like that?
yeah, because I haven't been able to, find out. I know when I was town clerk, tax collector Grace O'Connor was still alive, and I had some contact with her daughter, but I haven't been able to get any additional information from the office
Gotcha.
to follow up on that, to see, if they've sold the land and, but I noticed there's a new plaque there, but, on the bench, but, so I move forward, spruce it up.
Certainly
It's
can
ours.
cut the lock off if
Mhm.
they get in contact with us, and we run down there with a grinder and just chop it off. And
Yeah,
they can move it.
Yeah,
They
okay.
can contact us.
all right, I'll see if I'll ping Nick again and see if I can get him to, like I said, I know
You can
he's.
give them my email
busy.
address, feel free to too, if he,
Okay,
So,
because I will go down there and.
so
get it
so
out.
on this,
Yep.
so there's it's locked.
mhm.
But
Yeah, it has a real heavy chain with a
Yeah,
lock
right.
on it,
Right. So
but
they
it's a
just-
key lock,
Yeah, right, oh, it's a key lock.
it's a key lock.
Oh, that's interesting. So just cut the chain,
Mhm.
right.
Or cut the lock, yeah,
Yeah, cut the lock,
whatever the weakest link is.
yep,
Oh, I think that sometimes I thought those hasps are a lot harder than the chain.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
mhm.
Right.
Bring a torch.
Right.
I guess we should check it out on the bolt cutters.
Mhm.
I just rescued my daughter's mountain bike from a basement in Burlington. I had a pretty good sized lock on it. And a new diamond cutting blade, to grind it. It was like butter. She was pretty surprised. She's not so confident about leaving her bike on the car anymore.
Right.
Oh, man.
Yeah, no, it really, it's just keeps the honest people honest.
The battery
Right.
tools are amazing these days.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay. So then, with the items that have kind of been on our old business, you know, raising money for the Conservation Commission in the future. After this harvest, we have a nice cushion in there, so that's great, but still, as time goes on. The roadway repair for the farmers in the area of Conway, I haven't heard from them, they haven't said anything. I haven't been out there to check the holes.
Hasn't really been raining this
Right.
summer, so it's
Yeah.
helped.
Yeah, that
Right,
too.
hasn't been a problem.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And then we discussed the boundary maintenance plan already, and we'll see if we can put something together to keep that up to snuff. So then as, any other old business? Okay, so then as a last minute, it occurred to me that Mike had asked, the new trail of uphill both ways trail, he asked if we would, you know, walk it and review it, see if there was anything we wanted to comment about. I have to admit, I did not go out and check it out, but was there anything you'd like to add or
Well,
wanted to?
I'm just wondering if I mean, I'm not operating autonomously here, you know, so do we need to make it a commission agreement that we want to do this trail, move forward with it? Because we have to present it to the land trust. So I
Right.
don't feel like I should just be doing this on my own.
Yeah, right,
I should
right.
be, you know, we support doing that, and then I'll contact, you know, whoever's in charge. And I know they just changed again in the leadership there, so we'll map it out and send them the map and
Yeah.
go through their 8-week vetting period. So,
Okay,
but do we need to all agree that we want to do that as a conservation?
Yeah, sure.
commission?
yeah,
Right.
I think so,
Yeah.
you know, just
Yeah.
support,
Well, yeah. I
What
mean,
you're
it's-
doing? Yeah.
It shouldn't be autonomous, you know.
yes, right,
Because I
absolutely,
want to present it to them that as a conservation commission member, we're
right,
expanding the trail.
yeah.
And taking into consideration what Tim said, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So do we want to make a motion for approval by the commission?
Yes.
Do you have a map?
Not yet. It's flagged. We weren't gonna
Mhm.
take the final step of actually walking it and, you know, mapping it
Until
somebody, you know, everybody was like, all right, we probably should move that, move this. And I will go up again and just review where we hit the roads, just, if it simplifies it to move it off the road now, you know, the
Mhm.
flags, and then people look at it that way, it's a lot easier.
Okay.
So,
Well, I'll make a motion that we support this new trail uphill both ways, and that Mike can present it to be mapped.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
Sure. Okay.
All those in favor? Aye. You are supported.
So this is so you can go to NEMA and say
Yeah.
Well,
Conservation
no, it's
Commission.
really so I can go to
land trust.
land trust,
Mhm.
which I'm gonna.
But you're gonna go to land trust with a map, like get a map.
That's
Yeah.
right, I don't wanna contact them until I can email them the map.
Something. Yeah.
Right, it's a digital map, they'll get it,
Yeah.
and in the format they like, and they'll upload it on, overlay it, and they'll see that it's within the boundaries, and
Yeah.
then whoever can take the time to walk it will,
Yeah.
and they'll approve it eventually.
Good.
Yeah, it's the way it worked for the other ones, it's, you know, pretty smooth.
Yeah, it's a good process.
Is there a bridge,
Yeah.
is there a
Yeah.
bridge involved in that?
There's several, but they're little 6 foot at the most.
Okay.
And that's kind of another reason why it's like kind of like it's got to be kind of a group effort, because if we want to build the bridge, there's gonna be a little cost to that. So they're gonna start a project that no one was supporting in the first place,
Oh, right.
and then ask to spend some money on it,
Mhm.
you know, out of our funds. But the bridges are gonna be pretty small.
Is there anything else anyone would like to bring forth to the Conservation Commission tonight?
Do the selectmen have to approve Jake's appointment?
You know, I was thinking that too. Do we have,
I think so.
or he's just an alternate?
I mean, we
Sorry,
can just say that we voted to
Voted
accept
to-
him, and
yes.
they can just okay it.
Yeah,
And then they swear him in, is that right?
yeah. Did you get sworn in as an alternate? Yes.
I think, yeah.
That's right, because even alternates are official.
Yeah, because at any meeting, if you,
Yes.
yeah, they can fill a seat, so, yeah,
Right, yep.
pass the background check and all that stuff.
Fingerprint check. All right, so if that's all we have, our next meeting is September 3rd. Which is, you know, right after Labor Day.
That's the day school starts, is it?
It is.
Yeah.
I'll be in New Mexico for the entire month of September, so
Ooh.
I'll miss that.
Okay.
Say New Mexico or Mexico?
New Mexico.
New Mexico,
New Mexico.
nice.
Okay,
Works for me.
all right.
Okay, so there was a motion. Somebody made a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Okay.
Is
Sean, did you?
Second.
Second, okay, yeah, great, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask Sean, is that timber management, is the presentation gonna be on your website, if anybody wants to relook at it?
On the town
On
website?
the town
Mhm.
website?
I don't know, I can,
That's the reason why not.
Yeah, I don't see why it couldn't
Yeah.
be, it's, you know,
It's
it's
public
Great
record.
information, yeah.
public record at this point, so.
Yeah. Yeah, Tim's gonna deliver us a finalized one. I don't know if it's
Okay.
gonna be any different than what's in here, but
Okay.
he said.
Yeah, when he does it.
His note said he'll deliver a finalized and an invoice once we approve.
okay,
So once we get the finalized one, yeah, Yes.
Give it to Kelly and she can
put it on the web.
do it or whatever.
all right, perfect. All those in favor of adjournment? Whoa, I lost my train of thought for a second.
You took one more vote.